Okay, hello everyone. Thank you for joining me live, those of you that have. So this is a webinar a little bit about naturopathic nutrition. Some of you may know what that is, some of you may not have a clue. Most people don't, which is why I'm doing this. So firstly, a little bit about me. Some of you may know me, some of you may not. I'm a Norfolk-based naturopathic nutritionist. And I specialise in whole body health, so whole body approach to healthcare. We're really going to delve into what that means today, because you know it's very different to how some things are approached, say by your GP or other modalities. These are some of the things that I see in my practice. A lot more other things, but these are some of the main things that I see. So at the end, we've got a little secret bonus, which I haven't advertised because I didn't want that to be the main reason that people signed up. So stick around and find out what that is. Right. So when I say I'm a nutritionist, you know, a lot of people think to themselves that is just about food. And, you know, this really is a common myth. You know, before I delved properly into nutritional therapy, didn't realize how much it encompassed. And it's so helpful when I'm seeing people, because it isn't just about what they're eating. It isn't just about what diet they should be on and what foods they should be consuming. And a lot of times, you know, I say to people, I am a naturopathic nutritionist, and they say, well, I know I've heard of a nutritionist, but what is that naturopathic bit? You know, I've never heard this word. I don't really know what it means. So, you know, that's what we're really going to look into today. So when I was taught in a naturopathic way. And I'm really going to look today at what that means to be a naturopath and how that influences the way that I was taught. And a naturopath can encompass many things, but the principles of naturopathy always remain the same. A naturopath will be qualified in naturopathy, but they'll also probably have other specialisms. You know, they could be a nutritional therapist or a homeopath, or, you know, into traditional Chinese medicine or Ayurvedic medicine, you know, so there's every naturopath is different, which is always quite interesting. So all of these different modalities, they make up a different toolkit, and you know, these toolkits are what are needed to help people with their health problems, because, you know, what works for one person may not work for everyone, you know, and that really is one of the crucial things. You know, it's about addressing what works for that person. So there are naturopathic principles, and these are them. These remain the same no matter what. And I'm just going to talk a little bit about each one of them, but just running through them quickly. We've got the healing power of nature. We've got identifying and treating the causes. First, do no harm. Doctor is teacher. Treat the whole person, and prevention. So we're going to start off with the healing power of nature, what this means as a naturopath. The healing power of nature is the inherent self-organizing and healing process of living systems, which establishes, maintains, and restores health. Naturopathic medicine recognizes this healing process to be ordered and intelligent. It is the naturopathic physician's role to support, facilitate, and augment this process by identifying and removing obstacles to health and recovery, and by supporting the creation of a healthy internal and external environment. So what this is really saying is that the body has this inherent ability to heal, you know, and what we are trying to do when we see people is to really get these obstacles out of the way that are hindering that healing process. Next up is identifying, treating the cause. So illness does not occur without a cause. Causes may originate in many areas. Underlying causes of illness and disease must be identified and removed before complete recovery can occur. Symptoms can be expressions of the body's attempt to defend itself, to adapt and recover, to heal itself, or may be results of the causes of disease. The naturopathic physician seeks to treat the causes of disease rather than to merely eliminate or suppress the symptoms. Now, what this means in simple terms is, and I'll give you an example, if you have something like constipation, you know, the conventional treatment, should we say, for that is to give someone a laxative, which, yes, you know, on the face of things will improve that constipation. But as soon as you take that laxative away, the constipation will come back. So it's not treating, it's not getting right down to what it is that's actually causing that problem in the first place. So, you know, this is one of the crucial things about the way we work, is really trying to find, I mean, you know, you're not always going to find the exact cause of everything, but it's about looking at what's underneath rather than giving things that are merely suppressing those symptoms. Because what we really have to remember is that the symptoms that our bodies is giving us, they are the signs. They're not the problem. They're the signs that something is wrong. You know, and we need to look behind that symptom to really address what's going on and really fix our health problems. So first, do no harm. Naturopathic physicians follow 3 precepts to avoiding harming the patient. They utilize methods and medicinal substances which minimize the risk of harmful effects and apply the least possible force or intervention necessary to diagnose illness and restore health. Whenever possible, the suppression of symptoms is avoided, as suppression generally interferes with the healing process. And naturopathic physicians respect and work with the healing power of nature in diagnosis, treatment, and counselling. For if this self-healing process is not respected, the patient may be harmed. So, doctor as teacher. I mean, I love this. The original meaning of the word doctor is teacher. Not so relevant, unfortunately, in today's sort of GP setting, which is a real shame. A principal objective of naturopathic medicine is to educate the patient and emphasize self-responsibility for health. Naturopathic physicians also recognize and employ the therapeutic relationship potential of the doctor-patient relationship. So, you know, this is really, I mean, this is why I'm doing what I'm doing today, and I do many other events as well, in-person events, because, you know, and I say this so often to people, you know, we live in an incredible time. You know, we have so much information at our fingertips, but it is hugely overwhelming. And not only that, but it's also hugely contradictory, because what one person says, someone else may then say the absolute opposite. And people are just stuck in this place where they just don't know what to do. So, you know, this doctor as teacher is so important, because at the end of the day, my absolute goal is for people to have those tools to be able to be responsible for their own health. And we really have lost that over the years. You know, it's such a shame, but we really have lost that. You know, sort of, we've handed it over. You know, the NHS is amazing. It does amazing things, but we just aren't used to taking responsibility for our own health. But that's really what I'm trying to achieve here. Treating the whole person. Health and disease result from a complex of physical, mental, emotional, genetic, environmental, social, and other factors. Since total health also includes spiritual health, naturopathic physicians encourage individuals to pursue their personal spiritual development. Naturopathic medicine recognizes the harmonious functioning of all aspects of the individual as being essential to health. The multifactorial nature of health and disease requires a personalized and comprehensive approach to diagnosis and treatment. And naturopathic physicians treat the whole person, taking all of these factors into account. And this is really, really, really paramount to what we do, because, you know, and this is what sets, you know, the whole thing apart from what we would call allopathic or conventional medicine, is that if you had, for example, we said you know, like I said earlier, with the constipation, which is a gut issue, you would be sent to a specialist who would completely only look at that area. That's the only place they would look. Whereas what we are doing is looking at the whole person, you know, and not just their body, also what's going on in their environment, what's going on in their mind. You know, it's really is multifaceted, and it's so important. It's so important because these things are connected. You know, the information with the gut and the brain that's coming out, you know, has been coming out for the last decade is, you know, vital information. It's so interconnected, so necessary. And prevention, the ultimate goal. Naturopathic medical colleges emphasize the study of health as well as disease, the prevention of disease, and the attainment of optimal health in patients are primary objectives of naturopathic medicine. In practice, these objectives are accomplished through education and the promotion of healthy ways of living. Naturopathic physicians assess risk factors, hereditary and susceptibility to disease, and make appropriate interventions in partnership with their patients to prevent illness. Naturopathic medicine asserts that one cannot be healthy in an unhealthy environment and is committed to the creation of a world in which humanity may thrive, which I just think is, you know, obviously it's idealistic, but it's fantastic, isn't it? That's what we all want, you know. So what that really means is that we're looking, you know, at someone's environment and saying, you know, what can we tweak? What is going on here that may be impacting our health that we haven't really thought about? You know, what can we do to, you know, lessen that load on the body, basically? You know, that's what it's all about. You know, going back to the fact that the body has this innate want to heal, and we just need to give it the right environment. So naturopathic nutrition, which is what I do, you know, we treat the whole person, not just a symptom. That's really important. Use naturopathic techniques, which I'll talk a little bit about in a minute. Takes an in-depth health history, and this is really important. You know, I go right back to when you were born, you know, even like your birth, how you were born, you know, looking at your parents and other, you know, is there any inherited, you know, illnesses or weaknesses? It considers many aspects to aid in the healing process. You know, this is what I've been saying. It's not just about food. It's not just about what you're eating. There's so many things, which I'm going to, again, talk about a little bit more in a minute. It utilizes natural healing principles, and it really aims to get to the root cause. And that is just so important, because without that, you're not really getting that true healing. You really need to find out what it is that's causing all of this in the moment. And it might, you know, sometimes it's not really complicated. Sometimes it might just be that your life is really stressful, and you've had some, you know, trauma that's unresolved. You know, these things, it doesn't have to be really, really complicated. So naturopathic nutrition can help with so many things, you know, and here's a little idea of some of the things that I see. So using natural healing methods. So what we're really looking at here is an unprocessed and natural food diet, whole food diet. We want wild fish. We really want to be filtering our water. If we're eating meat, really it wants to be grass-fed and free range and organic if possible. We really want to have organic or seasonal and local vegetables, you know, that's really important, and quality supplements. You know, I often get asked a lot about supplements. We do use supplements in clinic. It's a very valuable tool, and unfortunately, you know, this is the unfortunate situation we are in, that you cannot just get all of the nutrients you need from food nowadays, because food is over farmed, the soil isn't what it used to be, we are bombarded with X, Y, and Z in our environment. You know, we do need that extra support. Our bodies do need it. So I do really use a lot of quality supplements. Naturopathic techniques. So this could be using castor oil, skin brushing, sauna therapy, healthy detoxification, Epsom salt baths, or linseed tea. And we're going to dive into this a little bit more in the next free webinar I'm doing, which is on the 4th of February. And there's a link there to it. But I will also email one out to everyone that's attended if you would like to sign up for that as well and find out a little bit more about that. So what I say to everyone that sees me is, I'm all about this, laying these foundations, because without these foundations, with these foundations, we are paving that way to really getting our health back on track. And these things don't have to be implemented all the time, really strictly. There is, of course, there's leeway, but it's just about, knowing what these things are and just being aware. It's just being aware. So I'm going to do a little bit about this now. Different things we've got are nutrition, obviously, and fixing any deficiencies that we may have in our diet. Our gut health and digestion, hugely vital. So much information about this online nowadays. It really is a hot topic. Hydration, blood sugar balance, sleep, stress and anxiety management, and detoxification. So first up, nutrition and fixing deficiencies. And, the way we look at this is looking at signs and symptoms to help to identify if a person has any deficiencies, or we do have access to tests, and a lot of people do want to know. We can get blood tests, we can do hair mineral analysis, and many symptoms can be helped just by addressing this area. You can get blood tests done with your GP. That is possible. They don't have access to all of the tests that we do, and also they're not as comprehensive, but it is obviously free, so that can be helpful. But a little thing I will note on here about GP blood tests, and I hear this all the time, I'd say to people, oh, have you had any recent blood tests done? Have you had anything done? And they'll say, oh yeah, I had X, Y, and Z. It all came back normal. Everything's normal. Now, this is hugely frustrating for me because, basically the GP is working to a much, much larger range of which is, in inverted commas, normal. But, quite often I see people and they've got all these symptoms and they've gone and they've had their blood tests and everything comes back normal, and they just think, well, am I going mad? I thought that, I felt awful and you're just saying everything's normal. So what's going on, and the reason for that is because what we work to is optimal, and it's so vital to say this because there's so much that can be done. I'll give the example of vitamin D, which, I really do suggest a lot of people get theirs tested. It's a really good thing to get tested. You can go online and do an at-home test for around, I think it's about £35, so it's not expensive. And the Vitamin D Society say that 120 is the optimal. The GP will say that anything over 50 is normal. So even if you were at 45, they would even if you were at 55, they would say, oh yeah, everything's normal. But I would come in and say, well, no, actually, that's really very low still. That isn't normal. There is a lot we can do. Come in with a supplement. It's going to make you feel a lot better. So I hope that makes sense. So some common symptoms that I might see, relating to vitamin deficiencies. If you've always got bleeding gums or you bruise really easily, that can be a lack of vitamin C, which is a vitamin that we can't store. And I think it's guinea pigs are the only mammals that can't store vitamin C, don't make vitamin C. All other mammals make it, we don't. So we really do need to consume it. And, back in the day, in inverted commas, when we were sort of caveman times and eating, you know, berries and all this sort of stuff, we might have been getting a very steady supply of vitamin C, whereas now we aren't necessarily. And even if we are eating seemingly vitamin C rich foods, you know, like I said, these things just aren't containing the vitamins that we, you know, that we need for optimal health as much as they used to, unfortunately. So quite often, you know, we do need to supplement with these things. Vitamin C is a really good one, and you know, it's really good for your immune system. You know, it's vital for your stress hormones, so it's a good one to get in there, and relatively inexpensive. If you've got restless legs, or you know, any cramping or anything like that, or you've got real feelings of anxiety, obviously that can relate to a lot of things, but you know, magnesium could be really helpful here. It is a relaxing mineral. It's really helpful for these symptoms, and the majority of people are deficient in magnesium. We use it for like over 300 reactions in our body. You know, it's used so much, and stress, we burn through it even faster, or stressful situations, you know. So it is, again, something, if you're having sleep problems as well, it's something to try. It's a really good mineral. Fatigue, obviously this can relate to a lot of things, but you know, in terms of vitamins, this might be that you've got low iron or B12 or folate, or that you might have some issues with your thyroid. If you're experiencing depression, again, you know, there's many aspects to this, but you may want to consider your vitamin D levels, and also omega-3, which again is another thing we are hugely lacking in, because of with omega-3, not only are a lot of people not consuming fish, which is the main source and the most absorbable source. You can get it from nuts and seeds, but it doesn't necessarily break down to what we want it to as well. But the issue with omega-3 is it's coupled with omega-6, and we may get more omega-6 in our diet through more unhealthy sources like bad vegetable oils and other bad oils. And so if our omega-6 is really high, then it's lessening our omega-3, and you know, this can come out with things like depression, or you know, really dry skin is another area that you want to be looking at. If you've got white spots on your nails, that might mean that you are deficient in zinc, which again is a really vital mineral, really important for our immune system. Interestingly, one of the symptoms of zinc deficiency is having not having any smell or taste, or changes in your smell and taste, which you know is an interesting thing with COVID, and it's so vital for our immune system. So that's one to really look out for. If you've got PMS or fertility problems, again, this can be many things, but you might want to be looking at B6. So on to gut health and digestion, and this really is possibly the most vital aspect of health, because there's no point striving for a healthy diet and lifestyle if you aren't properly digesting and absorbing what's going on. And famously, Hippocrates said all disease begins in the gut, you know, and they knew that then in his times, you know, so they knew it then, and we're only just really, I mean, in the last decade, it's come on leaps and bounds, and it's becoming way more mainstream. But it is so important. Our gut health is so important. You know, what's going on down there, yeah, it just ties into your whole body. And I just think if you're going to address any area, you know, really go for that. I mean, I have done events on gut health before, and I'm hoping to do another one this year. So look out for that if you are interested in learning a bit more about that. So common symptoms, you may have come across some of these before, you know, IBS, constipation, diarrhea, that sort of thing, bloating, but also things that you might not think about, like skin problems, psoriasis, acne, you know, and nutrient deficiencies, because if you've got issues in your gut, you're not absorbing what you should, and that's really important. You know, we do have the tool of comprehensive stool analysis, but these are expensive, I'm not going to lie. You know, sometimes people do really want to know, and they want to go down that route of actually testing, and it can show up a lot more than what is, you know, what your GP would test for, a lot more. But so it is helpful, but a lot of times I say to people, if you know, if they can't afford that, just let's try, there's, you know, just from your symptoms I can say, well, let's try X, Y and Z and then see how we get on, you know, and we don't have to spend hundreds of pounds on testing. So hydration, another one. I mean, this seems so ridiculous, but you know, it really, I can't stress the importance of this. We need, you know, we need to be hydrated, and we just really aren't. You know, we just really aren't drinking enough water. Well, so this is the thing, when we might be drinking enough water, but we might also be drinking a lot of diuretics, and these diuretics, caffeine, alcohol, sugar, and also stress is diuretic. These diuretics mean that they are pulling more water out of your body. So you could say, oh, I'm drinking all the water, you know, I'm drinking my 3 liters, but I'm peeing constantly, and I'm also having 8 coffees a day. You know, well, we need to change that a little bit. We need to, you know, try and just balance it out, you know. And this is what I'm talking about. This is, you know, this is where I come in. You know, just to give a little bit of guidance. Blood sugar imbalance. Now, this is a big one, and I see this a lot, and it really is so important, and people, you know, just don't understand the relevance of this, and it can just help so many things. But so your blood sugar imbalance means it's going up and down rather than staying at a constant. And this is very stressful for your body and can contribute to lots of things, you know, namely weight gain, anxiety, but other things, you know. And what happens is we eat something or we consume something. I mean, even cigarettes can do this. It's stimulants, you know, but also high carbohydrate or sugary foods. We're eating them. It's spiking. Our blood sugar's going up. It's coming crashing down. And then we're like shaking and feeling like we're starving and we need to eat. So, you know, one of the things, very simple thing that I say to people to combat that is, you want to have protein and good quality fat. And if you're having carbs, they need to be complex, and that needs to be with every meal and snack. So, you know, even if you're having an apple, say, for a snack, which is a healthy food, but is also quite high in carbs, you know, couple it with a handful of, say, nuts, or, you know, some protein food or some fat that's going to balance that out and mean that it doesn't spike as much as it should. And that can really help. Another thing to do is that when you're having your meal, eat some of the protein first. And that's the first thing that your body deals with. And so it's not spiking, you know. And this can be a real problem. I see the biggest problem I see, you know, is either people not having breakfast, so they're not starting their day, they're not having a protein rich breakfast, they might just be having, say, porridge with nothing else in it, or they're just having coffee or coffee first, and that is spiking their blood sugar. And all you've got to do is either have that protein first, or you could put some protein in your coffee, like collagen or some sort of powder, you know, not for everyone, but, you know, it's another way to sort of balance that out. So sleep, I mean, and this is, a lot of people have sleep issues. I see this a lot. And it's really about adopting a healthy sleep routine. And what does that look like? You know, we say try and go to bed and get up at the same time, you know, so you're getting into that routine. You know, you really want to have 8 hours. That is the ideal. Not everyone gets that. Really limiting screen time before bed. This can really help. And consider blue light blocking. If you don't know what this is, you've never heard of this, basically your screens emit a blue light, and this blue light makes our bodies think that it's daytime. And so it's not creating the sleep things, sleep hormones like melatonin. It's not doing it properly. that are going to kick in and make us feel tired. You know, it's not even just before bed. You know, often I see people who, you know, they've got an office job, they're at a screen all day. You know, it's really hard to combat that. But then they just, you know, then absolutely completely tired, but they just can't sleep. You know, it's awful. And it's just because the body isn't getting that right signal. Basically, another thing to do that's really helpful is to go out and get some proper daylight into your eyes first thing in the morning. Like look right at the sun. I mean, you know, within reason, and that kicks off your circadian rhythm basically, and it's about really getting that circadian rhythm to be working properly so that the body knows when is nighttime. You know, and you can, you know, consider blue light. You can get blue light blocking glasses. You can sometimes you have these things on your phone or your laptop or whatever that can block that blue light out, and, you know, turn the lights down, all that sort of stuff. It's about getting your sort of body ready for that sleep process. You can also try lovely sleep herbal teas. You know, there are a lot of effective sleep supplements out there that are really helpful, or putting some nice sleep sort of essential oils in a diffuser. All these things can really help. So stress and anxiety management, and yes, I appreciate this is very much easier said than done, but it is really crucial because we live in a very stressful environment now, you know, and it's not just that sort of stress we're feeling on, you know, a physical level, you know, in terms of deadlines or, you know, arguments and stuff like that. It might be that our body is experiencing stress from other things, you know, like I said about the blood sugar imbalance, or, you know, it might be that we have high toxic load in our body. We might be you know, being subjected to, say, heavy metals or other sort of toxic environment things in our environment that can be stressful to the body. And it's really about this is what I say to people, is about helping your body to manage that stress. So it's not going to take the stress away, you know, but it's about helping you to not get to that stage where everything is just overwhelming and, you know, you just can't cope. I find that flower essences can be really helpful if you've not come across these things. I mean, the classic is in the supermarket is I can't remember its bloody name now. So I can buy flower essences that have specific, it'll come to me in a minute. I can buy flower essences that have specific different things. So there's one that I really like that is called Relaxing, and it's very inexpensive. It's by a brand called Janda Freeze, and you take 5 drops 3 times a day. I've just remembered Rescue Remedy. That's what you can buy in the shop. That's the classic. That's the flower essence. So the Relaxing Essence, yeah, you take it 3 times a day till the bottle's gone, and you know, it's like £7 a bottle or something. And I've had clients say it has changed their lives. You know, some people it just doesn't work at all, but for £7, I just think, well, why not? You know, you may as well try it. Some people have just said it's absolutely changed their lives. So you know, it's working on a really subtle level, but it's just helping your body to cope a bit better. There are also stress management supplements that can be really helpful, because what these are addressing is not only giving support in a calming sense, but they're also giving your body the nutrients it needs to go through that stress process, basically, because your body is burning through certain nutrients when it is stressed, shall we say. So adding those back in can be really helpful, so that you're just not feeling like, you know, everything's crumbling down. Hypnosis is really good. I like a man called Michael Sealey, Sealey. He's on YouTube and Spotify, and he has, I mean, a lot of his stuff he says for sleep, but he does other ones as well for calm and stuff, and he's fantastic, and it's free. You know, it's free. We can try these things. Meditation, again, yoga, you know, we know all these things are calming, but it's whatever calms you. You know, if these things are stressful, if you try and meditate and you can't, and you feel like that's really stressing you out, don't do it. You know, try something that really makes you calm. Having a nice bath, reading a book, you know, all these things. It's about prioritizing self-care and just incorporating that into your life and really making time for it. You know, it's so important. We really don't we really don't prioritize ourselves. You know, we don't want to come across as selfish, or we feel like we haven't got the time or money maybe to do these things. But like I said, there's so many things out there that are free or low cost. You know, I really like things like sound baths. Fantastic, you know, generally fairly inexpensive, and just, you know, they're really, really helpful. Now, detoxification, and this is quite a big one again. You know, we really do, I hate to say it, but we do live in a toxic world. You know, it has become increasingly toxic, and this is taking a toll on our body. And, you know, really specifically our livers, you know, which are an incredible organ. They do an amazing job, but sometimes they do need to be supported. You know, the liver is so incredible that it can regenerate, which I just think is fantastic, and it can work to full capacity on a third of its the organ, you know. So it is an incredible thing, but we really do put them through it, you know, our livers. And, you know, sometimes we just need to add in that little extra support. You know, a classic thing, you know, that you might have heard of is milk thistle. That's a really helpful herb that can be really good for your liver. And it's just, you know, it's about support. You know, it's about supporting our bodies to cope with all these things. So here are some signs that your liver might need some support: fatigue or low energy, skin problems and itching. You know, skin problems could also be, it could be eczema, it could be, you know, acne. Brain fog, that's a big one. Trouble processing caffeine or alcohol. You know, if you're having these things, you know, caffeine, and it's, you know, really you can't sleep just from having a cup of coffee in the morning, you know, things like that. Or you could have a glass of wine and it, you know, really goes to your head. Experiencing anger or rage. I know that seems quite a random one, but that really stems from traditional Chinese medicine, which they attribute emotions to the different organs. And I see this a lot, you know, anger and rage. And it really is. It's really coming back to the liver, and supporting that liver can be so helpful. Blood sugar imbalances, that can really stem back to your liver. Sensitivity to chemicals. You know, you're walking down the aisle with all the washing liquids and stuff, and you just can't handle it, or you can't handle sort of perfumes and stuff like that, or, you know, the smell of petrol, things like this. Hormone imbalances, which, you know, a lot of women experience. Headaches and migraines, a really big one. Difficulty losing weight and issues digesting fat. And, you know, this might look like your stools might float. That's how we would know if you had an issue with that. So ways to support your liver. Now, being properly hydrated, this is really important, you know, really important for your liver. And that also means limiting those diuretics and filtering your water, because again, you know, we live in a world where we do have access to clean water, which is fantastic. You know, I don't want to take that away, but it is, you know, we don't know what the pipes are like, you know, let alone, you know, what's in it, what heavy metals, or, you know, even hormones. You know, contraceptive pills been found in water, you know, alongside, you know, things like chlorine, which, you know, really do, you know, it is a chemical, it is impacting us. So filtering your water can be really helpful. And if you want any, you know, suggestions for things like this, please email me. You know, I'm always happy to give suggestions. Sweating is fantastic, you know, really good way to support your liver and get those toxins out. And I would say, you know, if you are sweating, if you're having a sauna, you're doing exercise, take a towel, wipe away that sweat, so it's not, you know, you want to get rid of what's coming out. You don't want it to dry on your body and then reabsorb. You know, that's really important. So just a really big one on that, just wiping that sweat away. Eating adequate good quality protein. Now this is huge, and you know, I often get asked from people, you know, oh, what do you think of juice cleanses and things like this? And yeah, these things can be really good, but it depends where you're at in your health journey. And if you are, in inverted commas, a very toxic person because of no fault of your own, you know, it's not necessarily your fault from something you're consuming. It may just be your environment. You know, your liver essentially needs protein to function, to make all of its processes. And so if you aren't consuming protein for 3 days, that is going to be hugely stressful for your liver. You know, it really is going to have a bit of a meltdown. And, you know, quite often what I see with people like that is they get skin breakouts because, the toxins coming out elsewhere because it's just this huge influx. And then you get people have, the brain fog and feeling really rotten, and they think, oh, great, I'm detoxing. But it's really and officially, to detox properly, you should not notice it. You should not have breakouts. You should not have headaches. You should not have brain fog. You know, if your body is working properly and your liver is functioning optimally, you should be doing this without even knowing. And considering a liver cleanse program, this, you can do things like this. And I do think they are good, but I will say that I think really, if pushed, I'd say that really we want to be supporting our livers on a day-to-day basis, and there are things that can encompass that, but really, and it's good, there are good supplements you can take, but I really think that that's where we're at. It's just, giving that extra support day to day, not just, for a week cleanse or a 2-day cleanse. Managing stress, this can be really helpful. Eating an antioxidant rich diet, it's just a good diet, all those bright vegetables and fruits. Ensuring all your elimination pathways are working well, and this is really important. One of the main elimination pathways is your bowels, and that means if you have any constipation, it is just all getting backed up and going back into recirculation, back to your liver to be reassessed and worked on, and it's just putting way more strain on your liver and your detoxification. Like I said before, there are liver supportive herbs that we can take. Castor oil packs are a fantastic tool, and if you don't know what that is, I will be talking more about that in the next webinar, so please do join if you're interested. Coffee enemas, a bit of a contentious one, but very helpful. Also doing a colonic hydrotherapy as well. These things can be really helpful for detoxification. Adding in binders, if you don't know what that is things that go in when we know we're detoxing, and they bind to the toxins and help them to get out of the body more easily and safely. Avoiding processed food and toxic seed oils, and what I'm saying with that is things like rapeseed oil and sunflower oil, which are really just not healthy foods. They're not healthy foods. They've been heavily processed. We want to be getting in those lovely things like extra virgin olive oil, whole foods, organic where possible, really just helping our body. So with naturopathic nutrition, there are various tools I use in my practice, and these are the things that I like to use. I like to use a full health history, really get as much information as I can about a person, because like I said, it is addressing these foundations, but also, people are coming to me with symptoms. They want to have symptom relief. So it really is laying down those foundations and addressing specific things that are going on. I like to know what you're eating. Like I said, it's not all about food, but it is about food as well. Food is a big thing. It's a big place where we can help our bodies. We are what we eat, essentially. So, that is a crucial aspect. I like to do hair mineral analysis. That can be really helpful. I also like to look at people's blood types and tie that into their diet. You may or may not have come across this. They can be very, very helpful, especially if someone should be, or, if they should be eating meat, especially when we live in a world where sort of eating meat is quite vilified, and, quite often I see people and they feel guilty about eating meat. And if you're a blood type O, I will tell you now, you definitely need to be consuming some meat. And if you don't, you will be getting symptoms, and you will be it will be impacting your diet. And there's only your health. And there's only so long you can go, really, because blood type O's, they really need to eat meat. You know, it's crucial to how they function. And quite often I can tell if people, because if you're a blood type A, you know, and you're a vegetarian, you can do quite well on a vegetarian diet. So a lot of vegetarians that are really thriving and don't have any cravings for meat and stuff are probably a blood type A. But yeah, it can be just quite helpful. I don't stick to it. You know, there's some people that really do stick to it as a panacea for everything, but you know, I just find it's a helpful tool for certain things. Like I said before, blood tests, I have access to a lot of blood tests, stool analysis, hormone tests, allergy intolerance testing, that can be quite helpful. And of course, using really good quality supplements, you know, it's really vital tool. So the next free webinar, this is on naturopathic techniques. If you'd like to join, please sign up for that. And like I said, I will send out in the recording a link to that as well. And thank you for signing up. Thank you for watching live. If you've got any questions, please do email. I'm always happy to answer any questions. I will say either add me to your contacts, or if you have emailed me and you feel like I haven't replied and you're wondering why, please do check your spam, because quite often my emails go into people's spam, which is highly annoying. And it's even happening when I'm in conversation with clients. So yeah, just either add me to your contacts or check your spam. You can also look on my website for any more information if you want some information about what I do, and follow me on social media if you want. That's my Instagram. Plus, I'm also on Facebook as well as Meg Powell Naturopathic Nutrition, but also there is a Share the Health Facebook group. You know, if you want to join that for any health info and great tips and details about any wellness events and stuff. Yeah, so that's happening then. Right, so secret bonus. Now, I didn't advertise this because I didn't want people to sign up just for this reason. But every month I'm going to do a little prize draw, and all the attendees, you know, you can win a health review consultation with me if you want one. It's not compulsory. Or if you want, you can have £50 off any of my other consultation packages if you want to do, you know, something that's a bit more in depth, basically. So I'm going to do that now live. Good luck, everyone. Right, all your names are in there, and obviously some people won't be on here, won't be listening live. And it's Caroline, and I know she didn't watch live because she wants me to send her the recording. But well done, Caroline, and join again next month to win a consultation with me. Now, I hope that's been really helpful for everyone. Like I said, if you've got any questions or you didn't understand anything, or, you know, even if it's like in a week and you're like, oh, what did she mean by that? You know, just send me an email. And of course, the recording will come out as well, so you'll be able to watch that again to get any more information. I'd love to hear your feedback as well if you'd like to email me that. It's always great to hear, you know, if things I've done have been helpful. Yeah, okay, thanks everyone. See you next time, hopefully.